Here is my new Tenor Size ukulele build kit. One of the first things I'm going to have to do is make a jig for it, and I'm not sure how yet, but I will figure that out. Out of the box, this is what the ukulele build kit looks like. You got your fretboard that you need to put the frets in. You need to cut the frets to size, file them, and here is the neck. The neck is pre-made, but you have to glue the fretboard on. Here's all your tuners, nut saddle, strings, your mahogany front, and then it's like a plywood back and sides. I'll show you the sides in a second. These are so I could make a jig with. And then here's all your bracings, and also more bracings for the inside. Here is a paper template that shows you where on the front and back the bracing will go. And here are your sides. The sides come pre-bent, and they just kind of need to be glued together, leveled, and all that kind of goodness. And the next thing on my agenda is to make a template so I can start to assemble this. I found a scrap piece of plywood that is big enough to use as a base, and I'm going to take the template, I'm going to center it on it. Doesn't have to be perfect, and I'm going to tape it, the template, into place. It's not permanent, it's just so I can mark where I need to put my bracings for the sides, front and back, and that would be the thick line, not the dotted line. And I'm also going to use it to show where the top braces and bottom braces are, and I will show you that view. So I got my L brackets out, and I'm going to place them in the hips area, or the hip area of waist area, there you go, of each of these ends. But the sides I want to be round, so I've got some pieces of plastic pen that I'm just going to tape into place, since I don't have any other high-tech means of doing this. This jig is what helps to hold the ukulele in place as you're sanding, gluing tops on, so on and so forth. Could you do it without it? Yes, this just makes the job a little simpler. So there you go. You can see I have it round, and I just bring it up to the center where it's going to hit the black line. And I'm going to mark it with a pen. This way I know where to drill and where to mount this once I get the paper off. And that looks good. We will do the same to the other side. Luckily, I have a couple pen caps here, which I could disassemble to make the round plastic part. And I'm just using low-tack tape. Truth of the matter is, if you had nice pieces of wood and wooden dowels, you can make yourself a really professional grade guitar ukulele jig. There we go. Boom. Now, need the ones for each end. And this is simple because this is flat. I'm probably just going to run a little tape over here just so it doesn't scratch anything. And we're going to put that there. Let's center that a little better. Oh, yeah, that looks good. And the same thing back here. And this is what it looks like. So I've got the holes where I'm going to drill to mount the brackets that are going to hold it together. And then once I get this paper off, I can transfer these lines with pencil, if I can find a pencil, onto the top and sides. I have a nice ball, which I am just going to mark the centers. This way I can find them. I'll actually probably screw them in through the paper and then just pop the paper around. Boom. On the sides I will put both screws, but on each end I don't feel the need to. I'll just put one screw plus my piece of plywood. That's what it dictates. There is a little giveaway of the holes that I auled. In other words, if they're off a little, I can always loosen them and ship them and retighten them or bend them. Now I'm just going to drill a few little pilot holes. Just to make screwing it in a little easier. Probably don't need to. To make the pilot holes. Now just need to screw these in. Alright, that'll work. So let me just, boom, let's take the paper off. Okay. And then I screw those down, and I have a jig that will hold the ukulele in place. Alright, the screws that came with the brackets were a little too long, so I'm just going to use bigger nuts here as spacers. That way I don't screw down into the table, which in all reality wouldn't matter too much to me. But I want to be able to move this jig from where I can work inside to outside when I start standing. I'm going to leave everything just a little loose until I start having to actually use it. That way I could slide these little L brackets to get a nice tight fit and position properly. Good. This is my third jig with a similar style. It's cheap to build and it functions, and it's similar to the style that in the Stew Mac videos. That's the company that makes the ukulele kit. Similar to the jig they make. This one's just cheaper, frugaler. That should hold everything in place once I build it. The only thing that I'm going to do, just so I don't scratch up when you're binding the bodies all together, the body all together, that's where this potentially can scratch it. But with the amount of sanding that gets done, it wouldn't make that much of a difference. Depends on how much perfection you're looking for. But this should keep it all from getting scratched too much. Here, I just popped the sides in just by hand. Everything's still loose, and I just want to see how tight the fit is, and I want to be able to square these sides, so I really could just tighten down one side. There you go. So that's nice and straight, sitting flush. Good thing is I'm feeling this and it's already level. This side will need work. Let me see if I can rotate it, because I don't know if the camera's showing it, but one lip is higher than the other. Yep, doesn't matter. Okay, so let's center this. Boom. There we go. We will worry about centering that after. Just want to make sure that it's got that it's compressing a little this way and this way, but you don't want to compress too much because you don't want it bowing in. Or that'll give you issues when you're trying to fit the neck. Takes care of that. Now let's take care of the sides. So I like to get these right in the middle of the waist of the guitar. So let's push that until it hits, which it seems to be doing. There you go. Now everything's in there tight. And every time I have to pull it back out, push it back in for doing different things, it should sit true. And here is a top view. Next thing up is to put these little eye hooks around the base area. That way when I go to bind it with the rubber bands, I have something to hook the rubber bands onto. So I'm going to count out how many I have. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 13, 14. So I got 16. So I'll do 8 aside. Try to space them out fairly evenly between the binding of the bands and the few wood clamps I got. Even if the spacing isn't perfect, it'll still clamp pretty good. 1, 2. So we'll go. That looks good. I figure so I get some downforce on the rubber bands, I'll put it like an inch away. Should definitely be enough. And if these get in my way while I'm working, I could just unscrew them. And like that, all the way around, evenly spaced. And I'll show you what it looks like when I'm done. Alright, this is what I got. You can see I have the eye hooks all the way around, or whatever those hooks are called. I've got all my bracing in, and once you see it starting to come together, you'll understand. This is the top of the body near the neck, and back here where the rubber bands will bind, it's a little higher space. So worst case scenario is I add little nails here or something just to give me an extra spot, or I use wood clamps or something if need be.